Chances are, if you own a half-decent one of these, then you're much less likely to take photographs using one of these. And I suppose you'd be right. Although technology in terms of cameras in smartphones is improving with every single release, and a lot of people these days buy smartphones just for the camera, the optics still aren't a patch on what you can achieve with a really good mirrorless or DSLR camera. However, I think there are some positives that we can take out of mobile phones that help us to improve our photography skills. And I was planning to share these on a photo walk that I'd entitled Phone Photography for Photographers. And it was an absolute flop. There was no interest in it whatsoever. So that made me think, are we too quick to discount what these little devices can do in helping us to not only improve our skills with one of these, but to get better photographs? Join me in this video and we'll look at 5 different ways in which I think smartphones can help us with our photography. Now, I have to admit, when it comes to photography, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I'm usually the one saying use manual mode on the camera, get everything right in frame that you can possibly get, try out different aperture settings to experiment with depth of field, and get the best quality image that you possibly can. So when it comes to plugging mobile phones and smartphone photography, then maybe I'm a little bit out of my depth. But I think there are some things that bring out positivity in our photography when it comes to using smartphones. And I have to admit that the majority of them that I'm going to share with you aren't necessarily to do with taking photographs using a smartphone. They're more apps that we can use and various different techniques that we can learn from using our phone whilst we're out and about on a location shoot. But the first one that I'd like to share with you is all about taking photographs with your phone. Firstly, they're extremely light and versatile. I'm filming this section of the video on my phone now, and I'm not limited to that tripod view. I can move around and show you the background. I can change my angle very quickly, and I can tilt the camera if I want. Sorry if that's making you feel a bit ill. But what I'm trying to get at here is if you are away on holiday or you are travelling somewhere where you're not really practically going to take your big camera equipment, then phones can just slip in your pocket and you can take quick snapshots that remind you of where you were. The other great thing about mobile phones is they often will record the exact time and date and location where you took that photograph. So if you want to take a better photograph of it afterwards, when you can take your photography equipment with you, then just look back at the gallery on your phone and you'll know exactly where to go because it'll show you a map of where you took the photograph. And if you had the perfect light, you'll know exactly what time and date to go back as well and get that perfect shot, considering that, of course, the light is the same when you return. Ah, that's better. I'm back within my old traditional frame. No more moving around. You're nicely safe, perched upon that tripod, and I can talk quite randomly at you probably, but hopefully you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to say as you enjoy the nice shallow depth of field in the background, which of course many phones can do these days, but it's often a bit sketchy and a bit false looking, which is why I love the optics, like many of you probably watching this video, of a proper camera. And the next points that I'm going to give you in terms of how smartphones can help us with our photography are all about how phones complement our use of our cameras rather than making photographs using the phones themselves. Okay, so let's talk about camera apps. Now, I'm not talking about apps that allow you to take photographs using your phone. I'm talking about apps that allow you to link your phone and camera together through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Chances are, if you've bought a camera within the last 5 years, it will have this technology built into it. And all you have to do is download your camera manufacturer's app from whichever platform your phone comes from, and just install it and see what it can do. It often shows you a preview of what you're photographing on the screen. It will also allow you to change settings remotely from the phone itself. And if you're doing a long exposure, it will count down the timer in terms of the amount of time that you're exposing your photograph for. All remotely from the camera. You don't have to worry about it shaking around because you're touching it and checking exposure times and things like that, because it's nicely safely away from you on a tripod. You're just using your phone to dictate what the camera is doing. There are also great ways of transferring photographs. As soon as you take a photograph, these apps will suck them through the airwaves onto your phone so you can see them on a larger screen. Phone screens tend to be getting larger and larger these days. They may go back in the other direction eventually, but they're still a lot larger than our camera screens. They might not be the brilliant quality because they're just previews most of the time, unless you want to download the full RAW file, but it still gives you a greater perspective of what you're photographing. The great things about these apps is that they're absolutely free and they're great pieces of technology. In fact, I think that it's the best reason for utilising a smartphone with a camera, because the technology's there, you've got the camera, you've got the phone, why not use it? And why people don't use it, I don't know, because they're still using those cumbersome remote shutter releases with the cables and pointing infrared things at cameras that don't necessarily work all the time, whereas I've had 100% success rate with these apps. So if you haven't downloaded yours for your camera and it's available to you, then I extremely recommend that you do so. There are other apps out there as well, of course. There's that old advertising slogan that said there's an app for that, and most things in photography there tends to be an app for it, whether it's working out long exposure times, working out the difference in crop factors between APS-C, micro four thirds and full frame sensors, or whether it's working out the amount of light required for a specific exposure using flash or natural light. There is an app for absolutely everything that you would like to do ever with your camera. So it's well worth looking on the App Store, whichever one it is that you use, to find out what's available to you. And I'm sure you'll be amazed at what you can find out there. One that I recently found out about was an app that tells you about the likelihood that you may see the Northern Lights. So if you're going travelling in Iceland or up into the Arctic Circle, or maybe even to Scotland or Northumberland, you may have a chance of seeing the Northern Lights. This app will ping you and notify you if there is a good chance of seeing them on that evening. The photographer's ephemeris is also fantastic for landscape photographers, as it tells you what time the sun's going to rise, how long golden hour's going to last for, what time the sun's going to set, so you're never going to miss that fantastic sunrise or sunset ever again. Of course, unless it's cloudy, when you're probably not going to have much chance. When it comes to finding locations for photography, one of our greatest resources these days is of course the internet. From Google Maps and its satellite and street views to Ordnance Survey maps online, you can pretty much find anything, anywhere, at any time. And the brilliant thing about owning a smartphone is that you can have a look on Google Maps on your computer, save the exact point that you would like to go to, whether in my case it's a remote landscape somewhere or an abandoned, derelict, decaying building in the middle of nowhere. And you can guarantee that when you load Google Maps on your phone, it's going to take you straight to that point. I'm sure you've all had this situation before where you've typed in a postcode that's supposedly the postcode for the location where you're going, and your sat-nav's taken you 3 miles in the opposite direction. If you use this pinning software within the mapping apps on your phone, you will not only relieve the stress of thinking, well, that postcode's taken me to the wrong place. It will take you to the exact point and allow you a much more leisurely day of photography in the perfect location. Okay, so using smartphones to take photographs and to film video like I'm doing once again now isn't to everybody's taste, and we'd much rather be using our mirrorless and SLR cameras to get the best result that we possibly can. But that doesn't mean that we should simply dismiss our phones as being not useful for a photographer like us. Because hopefully, as you've found in this video, there are plenty of reasons why a smartphone can help us, not only to find our location or to help us to set a remote shutter, it can also allow us to find out different things about the world of photography that we never knew were available to us. And I think that that is an absolutely priceless thing. So next time you're going out to take photographs, although your phone's in your pocket, don't dismiss it completely, because I'm sure that it will come in useful at one point or another. Oh, sorry, I was just getting a bit distracted there. If you've enjoyed this video, then please like it and subscribe to our Yorkshire Photo Walks YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, for much more content like this. Yorkshire Photo Walks provide expert photography tuition on short walks through unique and inspirational Yorkshire locations. So check out yorkshirephotowalks.com for our latest schedule, and you could be joining me in a location just like this one on the banks of the River Yore in North Yorkshire, and learning about photography skills practically in a relaxed environment. You can also follow Yorkshire Photo Walks on Facebook and Instagram using the handle @PhotoWalksYorks for all of our latest news and photo walk photographs. I'm going to get my mobile phone out now and see where my next photography location is. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.